Monday, the president was like, hop on.
You excited them? No. Nerdy.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
How you feeling?
Still have a couple of minutes.
So.
Oh, thanks.
And look that over.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one from our.
Yeah, it's the same one.
No, good thing it is the one. Couldn't find it. Yes, we did.
Oh, you think it is?
I think it's.
Okay, why don't we get started? Welcome back and welcome everyone. We've got another couple of sessions of presentations. Our first presentation of the afternoon is by Renan Beckman. She's going to talk about dating reactive sedimentary fluid flow using zircon. And this is work in collaboration with Doctors Jesse Reimink and Max Lloyd.
Thank you. Okay, hello everyone. As Dr. Eamon said, my name is Renan Beckman, and my thesis is titled Dating Reactive Sedimentary Fluid Flow Using Zircon in collaboration with Dr. Jesse Reimink and Dr. Max Lloyd. So I wanted to start off by telling you guys why fluid flow is incredibly important. And so fluid flow actually can transport metals through rock and underground and can deposit really important ore that we need for our cell phones and for everything in life. Another thing that fluid flow does is actually helps transport hydrocarbons through the rock and underground, which is also very important because I'm sure a lot of us today wouldn't be here without oil or gas. And finally, there is no clear method right now at the moment to date reactive fluid flow. And so my goal of my presentation today is to convince you that this new method is an effective way to date reactive fluid flow. So we got our samples from Alta, Utah, which is located where the yellow star is in Utah, and we collected sedimentary rocks. So this area has had a very fun geologic history. The Alta Pluton intruded to this area, which is in pink here, at 35 to 30 million years ago. The little cottonwood stock, which is in orange here, intruded around 36 to 25 million years ago. And there's hydrothermal fluid flow evidence from 30 to 23 million years ago in this area, according to Stern et al. 2020. So specifically, the sample that I analyzed here is located around 150 meters from the Alta stock, which is in pink, and it is a sandstone from the Tintic Formation. And specifically in these sandstones, or in the sandstone sample that I analyzed, are detrital zircon. And zircon is a mineral that forms in igneous rocks, but detrital zircons are actually zircon crystals that were formed in the rock, but then broken apart due to weathering. And they actually are their own individual grain, their own individual sand grain. And then it becomes relithified with a bunch of other rocks and grains and sands to create a new rock or sedimentary rock. And these zircon in the sedimentary rock still hold information from their original igneous rock that they formed in. And so we are going to be using uranium lead dating to analyze the zircon in these rocks. And when zircon forms, uranium is actually trapped in its crystal structure. And uranium decays to lead. And what allows us to be able to use the lead and uranium ratio is that when zircon forms, it rejects lead due to its size and its valence electron state. So any lead found in a zircon can be deemed radiogenic in origin. And so this ratio is how we can get the age of a zircon grain. And also over time, when uranium decays to lead, there will be destruction of the crystal lattice, which will cause cracks and fractures within these grains. And one way that we use to visualize uranium lead dating is a Concordia diagram shown here. And a Concordia diagram has two ratios of uranium and lead. One is 206 lead to 238 uranium, which is one type of clock. And 207 to 235 uranium, which is another clock. And when those two clocks show the same age, they will plot on this Concordia line or Concordia curve here, shown in teal, and that is called concordant. So fluid flow can have some consequences to zircon grains. One of the consequences is enrichment in aluminum and iron and calcium. And this can happen from fluid that is enriched with aluminum, calcium, and iron, and it flows through the grain and will actually go into the cracks and can deposit trace elements like those in the cracks. And so when we analyze zircon grains and we see an enrichment in those elements, we can consider this an indication of fluid flow. And also these elements are rejected just like lead during the formation. So when we see them, it is a good indication that fluid flow happened. Another consequence of fluid flow is lead loss. And so when the fluid flows through the zircon, it can mobilize lead and actually wash it away. And when we lose radiogenic lead, the ratios in our clocks here on our Concordia diagram will become not concordant. They won't show an age on the Concordia line. And I kind of wanted to take you through the life cycle of a hypothetical zircon population. So let's pretend that it is 3 billion years ago and the zircon population just formed in an igneous rock. So it would be on a 0-0 point because we only have uranium and there would be no lead. And now let's pretend that it is present day. So let's just say it's present day and there's no alteration. So this zircon grain would have traveled up this Concordia line until this point right here, which is 3 billion years old. And so this age right here is concordant because there has been no alteration event and it is on the Concordia line. But let's just say that there was an alteration event at 1 billion years. And let's say that some of the zircons got completely reset. Since they got completely reset, you would see the zircon data point show up here at 1 billion years old. And now you may ask, well, how do you know that that's an alteration age and not just another recrystallization age? Because it is on the Concordia line. Well, when you have a population of zircon in a detrital population, each grain can get a different amount of alteration. And so they will actually follow a Discordia line down to the lower intercept age. And these are all like individual spots that were ablated on a zircon. And so that is the main tool that we'll be using to show that this lower intercept is an alteration age and not just another igneous age. So this is my results of my Concordia. As you can see here, it's a lot more messy than the one I showed before. But we have 3 different igneous ages within the detrital population. And these igneous ages are all being drawn down to one lower intercept here. And so this is kind of evidence of them all experiencing some sort of same event, which we may say is fluid flow. And so to further evidence that it was fluid flow, I plotted aluminum, iron, and colored it by calcium over percent discordia. And percent discordia is basically if you are closer to the, actually, if you are closer to the upper intercept, then you are less discordant. And then if a data point is closer to the lower intercept, then you are more discordant. So as we increase from 0 to 100, the alteration of these data points are increasing. And as you can see, with increase of alteration, there is an increase of aluminum and iron, and the points are getting lighter, so also calcium. So how do we estimate the lower intercept from our Concordia diagram that I showed earlier? A pseudonumerical probability model was written in R by Dr. Jesse Reimick, and this code will run possible discordia lines through our given data, and it will see which discordia lines have the most points going through them, and that would be the most likely discordia line, and this can help us estimate the lower intercept. And something special with this code is that there's something called a node spacing, and that is the time between the coded discordia lines. And so when you decrease the time of the node spacing, the resolution will increase, but unfortunately the computational demands will also increase, so the code will take longer to run. And as an example here, this node spacing is 500 million years, but they were smaller. It will be smaller here. And so this is the results of running my raw data through the code. And with a node spacing of 0.5 million years, we got a most probable lower intercept of 21.5 million years. And you may ask, what is your uncertainty? How do you know that this is a probable age? And that is a great question, because we created a pick and replace bootstrap method with R again to test our sensitivity to individual data points and individual grains in our data set of 373 data points. And so to help you visualize what this is, if my data set is this surrounding area and in my arms is the new data set that we are creating, the computer will copy and paste different points into the new data set, but it also has the possibility of repeating the points. It also has the possibility of leaving out certain points. So we are creating new data sets with our existing data to test the sensitivity. And we ran 1,000 iterations of that process with a node spacing of 1.5 million years, and our resulting ages were a mean of 23.15 million years, a median of 22.5 million years, with 2 standard deviations, which encompasses around 95% of our data of 5.64 million years. And so to visualize the ages that I just spit at you again, the Alta Pluton intruded 35 to 30 million years ago, and we had hydrothermal fluid from 30 to 23. The little cottonwood stalk intruded 36 to 25 million years ago. Our raw data age was 21.5, but our bootstrap mean, which is what I am considering the most correct or plausible age, accounting for the sensitivity to data points, is as being the most accurate age from this method. And in conclusion, this method can accurately date a lead loss age, and that can be supported by a Concordia diagram. And this data does show a reasonable age of lead loss from fluid flow in this area of 23.15, which does agree with Stern et al. 2020. And more work is needed to test this method and to confirm that it was fluid-driven lead loss and to investigate the chemistry of the fluid. So I wanted to thank you for listening, and special thanks to Eric Schoonover, Alex Hermanaro, Dr. Andrew Smythe, Dr. Joshua Garber, Dr. Max Lloyd, and Dr. Jesse Ryming for all of the support.
We have time for a few questions.
So really cool, by the way,
Thank
to start by
you.
saying that, awesome and great presentation. So at Alta, you've got samples from one location.
Yeah.
So you have a variety of peak temperatures that were reached, a variety presumably of fluid flow at different distances from the stop. What do you expect you would see, or do you think you would see anything different if you looked at a couple of different sites that were closer and further from the stop compared to yours?
Yeah, so we actually do have samples from different spots, and like this is something that I was hoping to possibly get to, but we didn't have enough time. And I would presume that they would all have similar ages with the samples that I've chosen here, just because of fluid flow is pretty fast, and I don't think that there would be any great differences in age with these. But that's a great question for maybe thinking about even further away and seeing if there'd be a change with that.
Yeah, great talk, man.
Thank
So I'm
you.
Curious, how would this method work if there are this same rocks and zircons are seeing like multiple fluid flow events? Would it record like this last one, or would it get influenced by multiple events like that?
Yeah, so from what we're seeing here, I'm thinking that it would record the last fluid flow event, because Stern et al. Did have it kind of saying that the fluid flow event did end around 23, and our date is right around the ending of it, so I would assume it was the last event.
I should know right away. I
Thank
feel
you.
really encouraged. When you say that sometimes the zircons get reset, do we know how and why that happens?
Yeah, so the zircons get reset by basically losing all of their radiogenic lead. So if they get completely, it would be like they just reformed at that time. So it'd be like, ooh, it would be like here, where it would be reset to 0, and then have time to decay to that point.
Okay, why don't we thank Rena again?